Good day, and welcome to your lesson on Unity Car Control. What you see in front of you here is the stock Unity car that comes with, well, Unity 3D. And I can drive it around. I've got the camera kind of set sideways, so I don't really know which way I'm driving. I'm driving on a terrain that I made. I'm going up over some hills, and camera goes through the ground, and now I'm high-centered. Darn it. Okay, well, that happens because I wasn't looking which way I'm going. So what I did, in case you're wondering, is I added a second camera. The main camera is looking sideways. What I can do is I can turn off the main camera that I had, and I can go ahead and grab this other camera so you can see what it looks like from behind, which would be more like a normal game. That's going to cause some errors when we play because, well, yeah, it's going to have a reference issue, but it will at least give you the view of what you normally see in a racing game, which is what we're going to be creating today. And let me see if I can get how far. I'm going to high center again, and there you go, I'm stuck. That's what I do. Why not? So what are the components that we're going to look at in this lecture? Well, first things first, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this second camera because this is all really about just having two different views. The first view from the side, which is, I'm going to go ahead and zap this one out of there, and ye old hit delete. Make it go away. This first one from the side is our main camera, and I'm going to go to my console and clear out any of those errors that were caused by adding a second camera. I just added the second camera to show you the view we're going to end up at. And I showed you the first camera because I wanted to see that we're making a car. Now we're not going to make this car. This is a car that comes from Unity. It is one of the stock things that if you load into standard assets and you go into vehicles, such as I were to right click and import a package and choose vehicles, it is the car that comes with it. So this is called the SkyCar, and the reason it's called SkyCar, I have no idea. It's probably in a user forum somewhere, but that's what it's called. And what we're going to do is we're going to utilize the SkyCar to, well, put it into a scene that we're going to drive around, but we are going to not use the SkyCar. Why? Because the SkyCar is, yeah, just, it's there. We want to be able to have our own little say in what's going to go on. And so over the course of this lecture, we're going to show you how to take and place the SkyCar in and then swap it out. Because, yeah, it's got parts. So the thing about the parts is that it's got a body, and we can get into it. Actually, I'm in the scene view. That was what I want. I can take the parts, and I can get rid of each of those parts, each of the individual wheels, and I can load in whatever I want. Now, this is mostly going to be a four-wheeled vehicle, so I technically can't quite load in everything I want. Like if I want to do a motorcycle, yeah, sorry. But you probably can kind of figure out what I'm going to show you over the course of the this next, I don't know, half hour, and can kind of synthesize how you do a motorcycle if you want. So one of the advantages of starting with the Unity car is that you don't have to worry about any programming. All the controller pieces are done for you. In fact, if I go to the car and I look at the car controller script, that's already done. Now, it's got car driver type, four-wheel drive. We were just talking about that. And it's got front wheel and rear wheel, but it doesn't have two-wheel drive. I know, just one of those things. But these pieces are all done for you. And so the advantage for someone that's not a scripter is that we can reuse what somebody's already done for us. And that's going to be the key. So let's go ahead and get started on this lecture. So first things first, I'm not going to talk about the terrain that I made, mostly because it is simply a terrain that was imported in from a raw map. Or I guess I am going to talk about the terrain a little bit, such as it goes. So the terrain was imported in from a raw map. I just went into my import raw, and there's my folder that I had, and I had a couple raw maps. I tried one from DeviantArt that I didn't like so much. Yeah, and I think, yeah, I don't know. It wasn't okay. So this was another one that I got from Depth Fields, and it was all open source freebies. My terrain I made a little bit larger than if you've seen any of my other lectures. Hopefully, maybe. I made it a little bit larger. Why? Because I want to be able to drive around a little bit more. Okay, and I made it a little taller because I wish it was a little bit taller. And I textured it with 2 different colors of texture. I made a base texture, which is utilizing kind of a cracked kind of pattern look, and that is a cracked pattern that I got. If I go into my assets folder, this cracked right there, and I made a normal map from that same cracked image by just taking it into Photoshop. In fact, I could pop up Photoshop and show you there's the cracked map, and to make the normal map, I put a little curve on it to kind of accentuate the, well, contrast in it. And that was one of the pieces, and that came from Pixabay, open source, royalty free. I also had this other picture, which also came from Pixabay, that when I was playing with making its normal map, here's the original, well, they had a color version of the original picture. I tried to play with levels and curves, and that to get a little more contrast on that one. That is found kind of on the walls, right up in there. There you go. So, and I, that's pretty much it. Not too fancy. It looks when you're really far away, you can really see the pattern, but the thing is that you're creating a driving game today, and you have complete control over where you want your vehicle to drive. So if you want to put it on city streets, great. If you want to put it on a terrain that you made, great. If you want to put it on something flat where it has a paisley design, you're more than welcome to do that. The key, though, is that even though that looks like it's a pattern, your car is going to be sitting really close to the ground, like right here, and so you don't have to necessarily worry about seeing a pattern, because we're going to be, well, looking from the car from behind, and when you're that close to a pattern, you're probably not going to see it quite so much. All right, one of those things. So I also played around with the directional light just a little bit. Why? Because I was thinking to myself, okay, so I wanted this to I'm going to do this kind of a nighttime thing, so I turned the light down just a little bit. You'll see this a little more when I put the skybox in that I have. So so these are 2 things that I've already done, and I guess I discussed them a lot more than I was going to. Such as it goes. So I am going to import in the vehicles. I'm going to pretend that I had a couple of different vehicles I've already imported in, but I'm going to pretend that I didn't import the vehicles in at all. I'll go ahead and delete that out of the scene, and to bring them in, all I would do would be somewhere in my assets folder, right click and import a package, and just choose vehicles, and it'll ask me, do I want to bring everything in? And the answer could be yes. Believe it or not, there's an airplane in there, and you probably could, if you wanted to, not bring that in. It would save you some, well, space. And so I'm going to actually choose the vehicles. I'm going to say no aircraft, but I'm not going to touch any of the scripts, because I want all the scripts, because I don't program, so I need something. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to hit import. And when I bring the car in, it's going to show up inside the standard assets folder. So if you're wondering where the car is after you got it loaded in, you're going to have to go into the standard assets, and that's where you're going to dig it out of. Now again, it's called the SkyCar, but it's listed, if you want standard assets and vehicles, just as car. And if you open it up, yeah, you're thinking, okay, well, there's the prefabs, all right. And the weird thing about the prefabs is sometimes it doesn't show up. Why? Because it's like gray on gray. So how do you get it into your scene? Well, click, drag, let up. This is where sizing is going to matter, because you're going to need to be able to drive that vehicle around, so you may need to do some serious adjustments on your terrain. That is why my terrain, which normally is a lot smaller, is a lot bigger this time, because I wanted the car to be, and any sort of adjustments that you're going to do when you bring in that car prefab, please make sure that you do it on the actual car or on the environment that is sitting it around. Don't dig into the car, because there's a lot of pieces inside the car. Make sure any transformation that you do happens to the actual car. And you can have fun with this. You can totally just make it really, 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 really tall, okay, and be cartoony, or but you're still gonna have to change it, the body and everything like that, at least if you're doing this for my assignment. So when I get the car in there, it will actually run. You can just hit the play button and see it, except for, uh-oh, I accidentally deleted the camera. That's a pretty bad thing. So I probably need to bring the camera back in there. So I'm going to come in here and I right-clicked, and I'm going to add the camera back. You could also do the create camera. It just shows it right there. And this is called the main camera normally, but, well, since I deleted it, put it as a regular camera. Now here's one thing that you want to do. You want to make sure that the camera is parented inside the car. Why? Because you want the camera to be in the car. So when I added that camera in there, I don't know if you noticed, but I actually had, whoops, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. I actually had the car selected because I want the camera to be in there. See, if my car is not selected, like let's say if I just have the terrain and I bring in the camera is just going to be smack dab in the middle of something, all right? But I want the camera to be relative to the car already. I don't want to have to move it around all over the place because that takes a long time and I'm lazy. And I'm going to hit delete on that camera. I'm going to select the car, and then with the car selected, I'm going to add in the camera, either with a right click or however I did that. But I'm thinking, uh-oh, well, wait a sec. Why didn't it show up this time? Well, I don't know. Probably because when I did it from the create thing, and I probably should have just right-clicked and did camera. Ah, look at the difference. Yeah, boy. I can't believe I just did that. So the camera, while it's selected and I got the camera view, might as well go ahead and just move this back a little bit and kind of, I'm thinking, okay, I got sideways motion. If you're seeing down the camera preview down there, I probably could just go to the game view and look at it that way. I'm going to do the up and down motion right there, and definitely got to do the back view. So the camera and the position that you put in your car, I realize if you're a person that plays racing games, sometimes you have two different views in a car. Sometimes you have through the hood of the car, such as if I were to take and adjust this so that I could see through the hood, but there's not really a hood on this car. I know, and I get the camera close, and what I get is that clipping distance that happens when your camera goes through an object. So for our benefit, since we don't really have a car that has a hood, we're just going to put the camera behind the car. Now, could you rotate the camera down a little bit? Sure. You know, I don't want to rotate it sideways because I don't want a Dutch angle on that. I definitely just want the camera to, oops, probably would help if I remember that I'm going to do on the x-axis. I just want the camera to like look down a little bit at the car. I want to re-zero out the Y and the Z that I was playing with when I was trying to figure out which axis to turn. That happens. How close should you get? Well, that is going to be kind of up to you. You don't want to be too far away. Okay, you also want to try and position the car smack dab in the center of your view. When I say too far away, that's too far away. That's really too far away. That's like, oh my gosh, what the heck are you doing? Somewhat close. And again, if you're manipulating it and it's not underneath the car, it doesn't have to be exactly in there. It just needs to be parented in there. And not a bad idea to start testing it in whatever scene that you do. Now, this has some audio that's already in it, and it also has some squeals, yeah, and screeches, and it even has some. It lays down some. Yeah, I'm doing some donuts there, and so I'm going to burn some rubber and lay down some tire markings. So that's one of those things that come with it. Now, in the realm of playing with the camera, this is where your ending camera is going to set up at, really. Yeah. But I need to do some editing on this car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera so that is, in fact, I'm going to stop the scene. I'm going to get a little closer. I'm going to manipulate the camera so that the camera is going to be over. Choose my four-way arrows. Click on the camera actually from there, and I want my camera to be over here looking at it from a side view, and so I'm going to need to do some rotation on that camera, and I want it to look at the side of my car. Why? That will make it a lot easier for when you are playing around with changing the body, because you have to change the body. Plus, you can even drive it like that once you position your camera. You know, you can see the wheels on that one. You can manipulate it forward, and it's just like watching a side view. Okay, for those of you that have had a camera or a video production course, yeah, it's like doing a track on something. Only this case where I'm able to really see the pattern, because again, it's just kind of all sitting there. So maybe I don't know, didn't like the pattern too much. But the key for us is that we are going to be looking through the game view on the game tab and manipulating the changes with the car. Yeah, but wait a sec. How can I manipulate? I can't click anything in the game tab. But in the scene tab, once I got that camera kind of set there, I'm thinking to myself, I have this camera selected. I'm going to go up to Game Object, and I'm going to align my scene with my camera view. That's Align with View. Click. Boop. No. Oh, dang it. That was the wrong one. Hit Control-Z really fast and go to the game, and I'm thinking, Align to Selected. Boom. There you go. Yeah, I got it right the second time. I never get it right the first or second time. Hardly ever get it right at all. Now you might notice at the very bottom I've got this null reference exception. Uh-oh, what happened? Well, if I when I deleted the main camera and I put that other camera in, I added a second camera. If you ever actually replace your camera, you got to remember to do one important thing. Choose the camera and go over here to the inspector and tell the inspector that this is the main camera. Yeah, see, because if you run it without, with it being untagged, you generate all sorts of little console errors because it's got all sorts of things to say, hey, got a boo-boo, red, bad. And I clear it out and I run it again and I get more red. Yeah, but if I were to take my camera and tell Unity that, hey, Unity, this is your main camera, even though it only says camera, and uh-oh, wait, dang it, I don't want to tag it while it's running. Okay, but I click on camera and make sure it's set to main camera. There we go. And then when I run it now, then I don't get any errors because now Unity knows it's a main camera. And if you were to play where it wasn't set as the main camera, you might find that the sound would be a little bit different. Okay, so in my case, the sound is a little more pronounced now. I can still do the burnouts. Okay, I can still show like, yeah, burning rubber, and I still got smoke and particles and everything, so we're happy. So let's go ahead and talk about how vehicles work and then how we can replace them. And in order to do that, well, we're going to do a little bit of dissecting. So the most important piece you need to understand about a vehicle, especially in a 3D world, is that it is got to be multiple parts. You are going to have a body that you're going to have. And if I were to look at the SkyCar, I can go ahead and select the car body. There it is. You'll also notice there are other pieces in there. There are some brake lights that have some headlights, some mud guards, and some suspensions. But here's the most important thing about a car and parts. You gotta have a body, because it's got to be a car, but each of the individual 4 wheels must be separate. And that is the key. In fact, I'll even tell you that sometimes you may find something in the asset store that you'll download that will only have 1 wheel. Why? Because it'll just use that same wheel 4 times. Now, here's the bad thing. Sometimes you may download something from the asset store and the wheels will not be separated. Can you use that for this assignment? The answer is, oh, hell no. Okay? Why? Because if you download something and the wheels are not separated out, the script that comes with Unity can't control them separate. All right? Well, what could you use that vehicle for? Eye candy? Objects just sitting around not doing anything? Could you download a model and take it into like a program called Maya and separate out the wheels? The answer is yeah. Yeah, you can do that with anything that'll open up at FBX. You can use Maya, you can use Lightwave 3D, you can use any piece of software that will open up at FBX, and you could take wheels and save a single wheel if you wanted to. What about vehicles that don't have wheels? We're not going to do tanks, sorry, or aircraft carriers. No. Okay, no battleship Yamamoto. Okay, so how do we swap these out? Well, the fun part about each of these individual pieces listed underneath SkyCar is they have meshes that could be swapped out. So you don't even have to adjust any of the scripting. You could just swap out the mesh and adjust the size. But that goes into something else that comes about how this works. Each wheel has something called a wheel hub underneath the car, underneath the camera. You'll see this thing that says wheel hub. What's important about wheel hubs? Because the wheel hubs are actually what make the model turn left, turn right. If I were to set this model so that I'm going to go ahead and grab the car and lift it up off the ground, okay, and then run it and drop it. Okay, you saw that little suspension thing happening. That happened because the wheel hubs are set. What the heck is a wheel hub? Well, let me actually drop this back on the ground so it's kind of there. All right, I am going to zoom in on this a little bit more. And looking at the back wheel, if I were to choose the wheel hub, and this is going to be on the right rear, I'm going to pull this to the left, and you'll see a green circle and a speaker. That's an audio listener. The green circle is the wheel hub. What's that used for? That's like a rigid body control to say, hey, this is a circle that this wheel is going to spin around on. Okay, I'm going to hit Control Z to put it back to where it was. What's the blue thing? Well, when I click the wheel hub over in the inspector, you'll see that there's a wheel collider. That green thing is the important piece. That's a wheel collider. But it has friction capability, sideways capabilities. There's the speaker that you saw in there. And there's even the wheel effects. This is individual hubs are where you can actually do these skids if you don't want. But if you don't like the skids, you can actually just turn off that script and not have something with skids, because let's say, I don't know, you're driving around on sand dunes. Kind of dumb to have skid marks on sand dunes. I don't even know if you could. I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, so so the selection of the hub, the right hub, that's there. If I were to again manipulate it out just a little bit more, okay, that circle thing may need to be adjusted. Why? Because there's a very good chance that the next vehicle that you put in here is not actually going to match up exactly where the hub is. So when you place a new body and new tires, you're probably going to have to not only swap out the meshes, okay, but you'll have to probably also adjust the positions of the hubs, and that may be from the top-down view and from the side view. Let me zoom in on that just a little bit more. Positioning on that one, yes, and even from the old front view. And that's just something that's going to happen. And we're going to do that, okay, because we're like past the 20-minute mark now, so it's time to actually put our new vehicle into this. Yeah. So I am back to, let's see, I'm right-click, and I'm going to free, and I'm going to manipulate my shape. And I know I probably could have just said align to selected. Yeah, I know. Couple of things that I don't like. It always kind of bugs me. These speakers look like they're kind of in my way. So I'm going to go up to gizmos. I'm not going to turn off the 3D icons, because then they're really, really small. I'm just going to shrink them way down so that they're really, really gone. And yeah. Now don't forget that you actually have some particles in there. So that particle generator generating is going to generate some smoke. That's in here. If you want to leave the smoke in, which I'm going to, you might want to turn down but not turn off. So inside the wheel hubs, we will come back and visit that in just a little bit. There are also some colliders that are part of this car. Now, the thing about the colliders is that you may have to adjust that also. This SkyCar is made up of 3 different colliders. Oops, didn't mean to do that. These made up of 3 different colliders. You've got a collider for the body, a collider for the bottom, which is the seriously most important part, and then a separate collider for the front. Will you have to rearrange or readjust the size of the colliders? Maybe. Okay. Sometimes you can get away with just having a big box for the collider, but yeah, you probably won't. You probably will. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe depends what you put in there. You don't have to necessarily worry about the lights. There are some headlights in this. I would probably say for this one, after we change stuff out, I'm just going to probably delete the headlights. In fact, I'm going to get rid of definitely the glow, and you're going to find there's some extra pieces like this mud guard. I'm not going to even use that. Okay, don't alter the helpers, because we definitely want to make sure that we have these pieces that are needed for the script. And I guess if you wanted to really get rid of the particles and not have any smoke, you probably could get rid of it. So finding a vehicle, again, got to have a body, got to make sure it has a single separate wheel. And I'll show you what I'm talking about, okay? So I took the liberty of downloading a couple of vehicles, one that had separated wheels and one that doesn't have separated wheels. Now these aren't the ones I'm going to use, because I'll step through an entire process. But I downloaded the cartoon car free, and I'm going to open up its, not its prefabs. Actually, I probably could drag the prefab in so you can see that's what that looks like. That's the cartoon car free. In fact, it looks kind of crappy. So let's see, where would the assets, models, and materials, and there we go. Let me drag that on there. There we go. Okay, so that would be, yeah, cartoon car. It's got square wheels. It's very much, I don't know, crappy, low poly. I mean, this is probably got the seriously low poly thing in the world. But what we care about, or what this is going to illustrate to you, is that the models are going to be important for us, because we are going to make sure, we have to make sure that the model has a single wheel, such as this, so that we can take and manipulate the individual wheels. And this has one wheel just simply used 4 times. That's all it is. All right. I'm not going to use this car again because I don't particularly care for it. I played around with it for a little bit and it was like, that's really, I don't know, it's not even 8-bit graphic, but it's free. So what the heck? I'm going to get rid of it. So now here is one that is cool looking, but unfortunately not going to work. This is the combat vehicle. I'm going to drag this in, and there. This is my combat vehicle is going to stomp on your. Wait, let's move that a little bit farther away. There we go. My combat vehicle is going to run over your SkyCar. Yeah, I got a gun. All right, but here's the problem with the combat vehicle. If I open up the combat vehicle, and you'll see that it has 4 tires. Awesome. Wait, no, not awesome. Because if you were to see something that has 4 tires, the tires are not separated, which means you can't put them on this script. In fact, I'll show you what it looks like. I'll show you how to swap out a mesh, and we'll show you what happens if you get the wrong model. I'm going to go ahead and just start with the wheel. To swap out a mesh, what you do is you select, well, a wheel. Simple as that. And to change out this wheel to a model that we want to use, what you're going to do is in the inspector, go over here to where it says the SkyCar wheel front right mesh filter. And we are going to change the mesh. How? To the right of the word SkyCar wheel right front, there is a little dot. Click on the dot. What it does is it opens up to select the mesh, and you can change the mesh. Okay, well, great. I'm going to change it to tire. And I changed it to tire. And the only problem with that is that now my single tire got 5 tires. Why is there 5 tires? Because it's the 4 tires and the tire in the back. You probably didn't see there was a tire in the back. It's called the spare. Yeah. And this is a prime example why if you load in a model and the wheels are not separated, it's not going to look good. In fact, if you were to try and run it, there you go. That's what happens. I don't know if you can see it, but all the other wheels are kind of flying around there. Okay, I'm hitting stop, and really hitting stop. I'm gonna just hit. That's scary. Why are the other wheels going around? Because they're all one model. They're not separated, and if they're not separated, it's not going to work right. And plus, it's got some weird, funky texture on it. Actually, I think I broke the weird, funky texture on it. Probably wasn't like that. So, so those are 2 things. Again, I just put them in there as a pre-start. I'm definitely not going to keep either of those. Okay, so I drug one folder in the other, but I'm going to go ahead and just hit yield, delete, make this go away. Goodbye. Uh-oh, I don't have a wheel. Oh, that's a bad thing. So I got rid of it, but how do I don't have a wheel. You can still select. That is the front right wheel. Okay, it just shows a missing mesh. Well, I got to put a new mesh in it anyway. All right, could I just put the old mesh back? Sure, you can go ahead and select this piece, and you can think, okay, well, that's going to be sky wheel right there, front right. Oh, yeah, there you go. Now, some models you will find may have 4 separate wheels. It all depends upon how fancy the model is. For the free ones, maybe not so much. So let's go ahead. We are at the almost half-hour mark. Let's go ahead to the asset store and let's find a vehicle that we like. Free. I'm going to go to the asset store, and I'm going to go to 3D models, and I'm going to go to vehicles, and I'm looking for definitely land, all right, because it's a car driving thing, and I'm going to click free because I'm cheap, and I'm thinking to myself, it's got 68 models of freebies, yes, except for that some of them aren't going to work. Tanks, sorry, not a chance. They're a cartoon car, ugh. Okay, another tank. Awesome. There's a background car. What does a background car mean? Probably hasn't got wheels separated. I know. Okay, stock car, race car. I'm going to click on that because it could be cool. Because, yeah, it's got stickers. Ooh. Now, when you look at a model, here's what you can do. Sometimes it will show you pictures of the individual tires. Sometimes you just have to look and see the materials. Does it have a separate tire material? Yes. If it's got a separate tire material, that doesn't necessarily mean it's got a separate tire. Oh, well, but could it? Well, maybe. I don't know. The thing is that it's made in September 2011, and so it's pretty old. So the polygons are probably, it may not be as fancy as you might think to yourself, but sometimes you just got to download a car, and luckily they're all going to be fairly small, easily under 100 megs. They're going to import super fast, and pretty much you just got to import it and look at the model to make sure that it's got separate wheels. So open up the stock car. I open up not the materials, not the textures, the actual stock car. And to see the model, ooh, there's a damaged version. Oh, cool. I click the right arrow next to the prefab, and I'm thinking, oh, look at this. It's got separate wheels. Awesome. In fact, it's even got separate wheels, and it's even got these other things called LF. Well, that's other wheels. All right. What's the difference? Well, this is a texture. Oh, that's just a texture. These are the models. Oh, could I still use them? The answer is yes. You just use the model and then you apply the texture to them. Oh, so let's step through that process. I'm going to go into my scene and I'm thinking, So I click on the front wheel that I had, and I might need to click twice to be able to select the wheel, or just probably select it from there. And I'm going to find whether or not my model that I have is going to be relatively to the same size. And pretty much all you got to do is try and swap one thing out. It doesn't matter whether you try a wheel to start with or the body to start with. It doesn't matter, because you're going to have to pretty much adjust anyway. So, but the thing is, you swap one piece out. All right, so I take that front wheel, and I know that I've got, the cool part about the stock car is that it's listed as left front, left right, okay, rear, right front, and right rear. Not left right, I guess left rear. I should pay attention. Anyway, this is going to be the right front, so that would be RF. And so I'm going to go ahead and click here, and I'm looking for one that says wheel RF, right front, and I add it in there, and oh, that's really, really stinking small. Whoa. It's like I really loaded something in really tiny, and it's got a weird looking texture on it, and it's like really, really tiny. And what do I do about that? Well, that tells you that you're going to have to adjust your size. All right. So do I do that right now? Actually, I would probably just make a suggestion. It doesn't matter what you adjust, but whenever you do for sizes, I would probably pay attention to the scale, because if you adjust one wheel scale, you're going to adjust all the wheel scales. And I would also say that when you put the body in, the scale that you find for your wheel should probably be the same as the body. Now, the wheels probably are going to need to be moved. That's simply how it goes. So when you start adjusting these things and you're thinking, okay, well, let's try 2x2x2. That's actually not so bad. Okay, that's not a bad adjustment. It's got a weird texture on it. I don't really like the texture because it's got the sky wheel texture. Oh. Well, how do I get the front wheel texture on it? Well, these are materials. And so where I want to do the right front, I could grab that material texture and I could drag it onto, well, wait a sec. I don't want to just drag it because it's all kind of, so yeah, drag the whole thing in there. That's not a good thing. Well, really, just select the wheel. Realize that this is a shader. I have it opened up. You can go to a shader. I can go to the little gear, and I could reset it so it's not anything. There we go, all gone. Looks like they're all using the same shader. Oh, well, how do I get my pieces in there? Well, easy. To get rid of one texture or a material, all you got to do is swap it out with another material. So here is where I was at. It was stock car, and I was here. But what I did is I backed up to stock car, and I opened up its materials. So there's kind of weird about this folder structure. There is a stock car, and then there's some materials in there, and these are UV maps. Okay, those are a way for a piece of coloring or texture to get mapped to the right spot on a 3D model. Not easy to edit on those once they're made. All right, but in the stock car folder there's actually materials, and there's a wheel texture. So if I click on the wheel to make sure it's isolated so I can see the SkyCar wheel, all I got to do is replace it with a different material. All right, now click, drag, let up, boom. See, none of the other tires get. Oh, There we go, just on that. Now, could I have done that differently? And the answer is sure. If I wanted to, I could have taken this and let's reset this texture. So there's a basic texture. Now it's called wheel texture now. So it is different. You do have to have some sort of a texture there that is different from, well, what was there. How do you make a texture again? Well, easy. Right click, create, and then choose material. And I'm going to call this one Mom. Why not? I don't know. Anyway, so Mama looks a little bit different, but I'm going to go ahead and say Mama going to be very dark. We're going to pretend it's black wheels. That would be the rubber. And I'm going to go ahead and select this one, choose it individually. I'm going to drag Mama right into, boom, there you go. It's now Mama. Oh, awesome. Could you put a picture on that? The answer is sure. Yeah, I could go, there is actually some inside stock car, inside textures, there's a wheel texture. Could I just drag and drop that in there? The answer is no, because it's got a material attached to it. Could I select it and then drag and drop it? The answer is yes. Boom. Ta-da! I know. You're thinking to yourself, ooh, that was fancy, except what's it look like from the front? Well, actually, it's actually not bad. That's pretty dang good. Oh, let's get rid of this fender, because I don't really need the fender anymore. So I'm going to click on the individual fenders. That's both these guys. They're going away. Well, they might not be guys, but I'm going to break the prefab. It's okay. And so that's got a cool little texture on there. So looks like, look, I did all my work for me. Awesome. And so I guess all I had to do was to just make a new material and drag that puppy in there. Let's do this again. Maybe before I do the rest of the wheels. How about if I swap out the body? Okay. I click on the body. I know that I could have selected it in the hierarchy, but I'm going to go to the mesh and I'm going to swap that out with stock car. So what's the name of the stock car? Well, I got to find the name of the stock car. So open up stock car called body complete. There's actually two body completes. Well, there's only going to be one that's going to be a mesh. So I click on this and I swap out to body complete, and that's going to be in alphabetical order. Cool. So I do that, and uh-oh, that's really not in the right direction. Oh, really? That's actually a pretty easy thing to fix. Okay, body complete is there. I know that I scaled up the wheel by 2 by 2 by 2. All right, so I gotta change the body complete to 2 by 2 by 2, so it's big. Now the textures, don't worry, it's going to be all funky textures because it's going to have the sky gray body. That's not going to be right. But it's pointing up and down. So what do I have to do? Well, I need to turn it around. So I'm going to take and rotate it on the Y 180 degrees so that it's facing forward. All right. You might not know that. How do I know that? I did this before. Yeah. I also need to do a rotation on the X, and so I might just put my cursor up to the X and swing back and forth and see which way do I go. Well, this is the way I go. There we go. And eventually I'm going to get up to the point where I'm going to get my body, and it's I want to get nice even numbers because you're going to find that that you definitely want them to sit as you wish. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, there's the body, by the way, so it's the right scale. Now, do I adjust it? Sure, you do. You want to set it so that it's looking good on where your wheels are. So kind of be looking straight at your wheel and kind of adjust where it's going to go. And you may need to look at it from the front view. You may need to look at it from the top view because, yeah, you might find that your wheels are sticking way out there, but maybe you need them to be not sticking out there. So you're probably going to have to do some adjustment a little bit on this. So what would I do? Well, for right now, I'm thinking to myself, I'll just move my body over here, so it's kind of about where the wheel is going to be, and I'll look at this from this view, and maybe raise this up just a little bit more, and I'm okay if the fender, that actually looks pretty good. Now, the texture could be getting in your way. You might be like hating it, so hopefully there would be a material made for you. So I'm going to open up the stock car material, and I'm thinking there is a stock car material texture. So I click on the stock car, making sure you got a SkyCar body, but for us it's the body complete. That's the stock car. I want to get rid of this gray body texture, so I'm going to grab the stock body, drag that over there, boom, there we go. All right. Now you might want to do that at the beginning, maybe, if it bothers you. Either way, it's all about kind of getting this initial position. I like doing the wheel first, and then I like adjusting the bodies, and then I'll adjust the rest of them later with that. Okay, so again, from the front view, Let's see, that was the Z. Looks like the other wheel is completely messed up. I know. But there's a few things I actually also need to get rid of. I need to get rid of the suspension. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 2 suspensions because I'm not going to use that. Definitely not using any headlight glows. Those headlights are going away. The glow is going away and the actual headlights are going away. So the brake lights are going to go away. But I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a sec, wait. I got to put in, there was 2 parts of that body. Anybody notice that in the stock car? There was in the stock car, there was a body, complete, and stock car frame. So actually another piece of this. So you don't want to just get rid of everything in the SkyCar because you may need to add something else. And so what I'm going to do is the components piece that has all the lights and the windows and everything like that, that's going to be what I'm going to swap out for the stock car frame. It's kind of like if you were to download a Jeep and there's a Jeep and a roll bar. All right. So it's like you're watching the same thing again. All right, now I am going to click on the stock car frame and let you know that that's kind of an underneath piece. All right, but how do I put it in? Well, that's going in place of components. So I go to components, go to the mesh, click the little dot here, change that to stock car frame, and then the same manipulation that I did for the body happens here. Now I just happen to remember that I did a 2x2x2 scale. I did a minus 90 degree X and 180 degree Y rotation. But I also did some shifting left and right. So I might have to take and eyeball a few things in terms of how it gets placed. Or instead of doing the eyeball, I could have just simply clicked on the body and SkyCar body and remember these numbers, 0.28, 0.015, and 0.114. And go to the components and go 0.28, and I already forgot what that is. Okay, the Y. Oh, there you go. That's what bad teacher. 0.015. Oh, that's almost minuscule. No wonder I forgot it because it's so small. Okay, 0.015, and then this would be 0.114 for the Z. 0.114. And these positions are kind of important if you've got multiple pieces because you want to value the original component portions of the model so so they all line up, and otherwise it'll look funny. And that's why this lesson gets long, because if you got a model that has multiple pieces, and even a model that has multiple textures. But our point here is that the body and the frame are in the exact same position. Now they're not called body and frame anymore. Could I rename this instead of SkyCar components? Could I now call that stock car frame? Stock car frame. The answer is absolutely. Whoa. So I could go to the body and I could call this stock car body. So that way I'm not confused, because I get confused. But don't put any spaces in names. Okay? Unity doesn't like spaces in names. Not a good thing at all, especially when we start doing the rest of the wheels. Anything. No more spaces. I actually, on the frame, that actually had a texture. I think it was in the back here in the materials. There was a stock car frame texture. All right, so how do I get that on there? Well, choose the frame. I got a couple other textures on there that's left over from, so just grab stock car frame, drag, drop, let up. Boom. There we go. Look at that. I got windows. Woo! I got windows. Sweet. Now, you're not going to like this when you run it. All right, you can test it at any time. All right, now the reason you're not going to like it is because it's still got the old wheels. But look, my new wheels turn. I can drive. Sweet. So I have to adjust things. All right, now the whole point about adjusting the body and adjusting one wheel is that that's your start. Now, you then have to adjust the rest of the wheels. You have to swap them out and you have to move them. But what you also are going to need to do is you're going to need to move the hub. And you may need to move the colliders. Well, wait, what are the colliders again? The colliders were the things that were part of your body. We will do the colliders at the very last. Let's actually swap out wheels. Okay, so I'm going to go to this this back wheel right there, and I'm going to swap that out. I'm going to click the little button, and I'm going to choose wheel. And the beautiful thing is that this was going to be, that is on the right rear, in case you were wondering. Remember that it got doubled in size, so it's 2x2x2, 2x2x2, and also I'm going to just pull it forward to adjust its relative position. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, when I look down from the top view, this would be Y from the top-down view. Should I have moved the body over a little bit more? Well, that's really up to you. My wheels can stick out the side a little bit. It's a stock car. All right, it's okay. They can stick out a bit. Now the ones on the left-hand side, whoa, those are not right at all. All right, we'll have to fix those. But though, yeah, I'm okay with that. So you'll see that I'm clicking on the X, Y, and Z to kind of manipulate. That's what I do. All right, I have a wheel texture that is made. My item is selected. I could click and I could drag and I could just say, hey, there it goes. There's my wheel texture. Could I use the same wheel texture on every single thing? Maybe you have to see what the other sides look like. But either way, this is not going to be correct yet. Why? Well, if you were to run this, okay, and you move the wheel, whoa, how'd it go back there? Okay, well, it went back there because guess what? You did not adjust. You did not adjust the wheel hubs. Because if I click on the right rear hub, it's all the way back there. That is not a good thing. The hub has to match where the wheel is. Okay, so the wheel right there was transformed a certain amount. Okay, do I have to transform the hub? So the thing about the hub is that if I go to the right rear, okay, and I can click on the blue and I could pull it forward and I can kind of eyeball a little bit about where it's supposed to be, it may be the wrong size too. So it might not just be something you could just move. Now if I hit play right now, okay, you'll notice it's about in the right spot. All right, so that's okay. And if I roll, looks like it's staying pretty dang close. That's not bad. I think I'm okay with that one. The hub can be a little bit bigger, but you want to try and get them centered as much as possible. So like with this very first one, I'm going to click on that's the front right hub. That is a little lower than it should be. These don't have to be centered. They don't have to be exactly lined up. So you can kind of eyeball them, but you do want the hub to be in the correct or pretty relatively close to the correct position. That will help. And it's all about clicking on the hub and remembering to move the hub. If you don't remember to move the hub, okay, if you fail to remember to move the hub, your wheels will just be all over the place. They will be separated out and you will not like them at all. In fact, you might find that they're just, user unfriendly to you. In fact, I'm also looking at this thing and I'm thinking to myself, the wheel, it looks like it's a little too, looks like it's a little bit off the ground. What? Yeah, so I'm going to click on the camera and I'm going to go to the game view and I want to adjust the camera. So I'm going to drop the camera down a little bit like this and I'm going to see if that sits off the ground. I'm going to hit play button and the answer is it is sitting off the ground. What? How do you adjust that so it's not sitting off the ground? The hub size. Oh. All right, so I'm back in my scene, clicking on my wheel. Actually, sorry, clicking on my right rear hub, and how do you adjust the hub size so it's the size of the wheel? Scale. Well, it's a turn the scale down on the hub. Well, wait, I'm turning the scale down on the hub, and it doesn't look like anything's. There you go. You got to get the right scale. In my case, I think it's I got to put the X back to 1. And I'm just going to do the Y, and I kind of have to adjust and scale the hub little bits at a time. And does it have to be perfect? The answer is no, it's a video game. Okay, but let's see what it looks like when I've scaled the hub. I'm going to hit the play button, and I'm thinking, oh, see, it looks like it'll drop farther, because you notice my camera actually dropped farther. In fact, I'll take my camera and go to the game view and take the camera and raise that up a little bit. So I'm looking at it from the top-down view. And yeah, let's go ahead, hit play, and see what it looks like. And boom, actually, that looks pretty dang good. It looks like it's right on the ground. In fact, it kind of, the front doesn't look like it's quite on the ground. Okay, front looks like it's a little off the ground. How will I know if it's on or off the ground? Well, most of the time, I'm going to know by the shadows. Okay, it actually looks like the body needs to be raised up. That's easy. Those are all these micro adjustments that you're going to need to do. You might find that you got things set really well, but then all of a sudden, yeah, like you got to raise the body up. But don't forget this has 2 pieces. So if you raise this body up to 0.136, you also have to do the same thing to the frame, which is 0.136. Okay. So that gets adjusted up too. And at the same time, I'm thinking, well, wait, now my wheel is not looking right, so I got to adjust the wheel back a little bit. And that's by looking. When you look through to the view, you also might need to maybe maybe the size is a little off. But whatever you do to the wheel, you have to also do to the hub. That is something I cannot stress enough, so that you want to try and get those. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get them as close as humanly possible. Okay? Now, doing the other side, same exact thing. I'm going to do the other side from the top view, though. So I'm going to take and I am going to adjust, do a swap out the mesh. So I'm going to go swap out the mesh here in this one. This is going to be the tire. That's going to be the left front, in case you didn't know. And we all know that it, by this point, is 2x2x2. And I'm going to pull it kind of into place so it's pretty much sitting about where I want. Now, I also need to look at the hub, which is the left front. And if it seems like I'm going a little faster, I am going a little bit faster. I kind of pull the hub about into position. Now, it's not correct yet. It's correct enough as I need it for right now. All right. Could I take and click on the wheel and drag the texture up there and see what it looks like later? Yeah, later. All right. Let's do the back wheel and then we'll adjust the hubs. Same thing we did before. And again, this one has 4 separate wheels. You might find a model that just has 1. This is definitely going to be the left rear. I clicked on the wrong one. And we all know it's 2x2x2. Those, I'm hoping the repetition is starting to bug you. Good. And you can kind of eyeball about its position. It's going to need to be altered. I got to move the texture onto it. I got to take the left rear and move its hub so that it kind of gets relatively, oops, got to not deselect it, gets relatively in the same spot. Now, at this point, maybe I'll just click on the free view and take and rotate so I get this side of the vehicle. And I get really close in there, and don't forget your hub was off in terms of its scale. I mean, you could just eyeball the scale if you wanted to and get it pretty dang close, because again, it's a video game, so if you get pretty close, you're going to be okay on that one. The difference in being able to see and not see is not going to be much. Could I type in a value of 0.82? Yeah, that's pretty dang good. And adjustments, not bad. So would each of them be 0.82? Well, for the hub, and this is the front left, and I could type in the Y value of 0.82 and see if that's pretty dang close to my wheels. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not close to my wheels. Okay, that doesn't look like it. Actually, it's not. Yeah, it's not even close at all. So on this one, might not be able to do that. So I'm going to have to take and maybe try 0.85 or 0.87 or 0.88 or something. Yeah, how about 0.8, 0.9? Call that good. Raise it up. And again, eyeball it, get the adjustments things. My whole point here is that I'm going through this kind of fast because you got to do wheel, adjust, wheel, adjust, wheel, adjust, wheel, adjust, wheel, adjust, yeah, over and over and over again. And at some point, you're getting to the point where all your wheels are going to be good. And hopefully you're not going to get high-centered on something. Because if you get high-centered on something, that would be like a bad thing. And I'm thinking that I think my rear wheels are just a little too far forward. So I'm probably going to take these, yeah, they don't even match up. Okay, so I'm going to take this wheel and I'm going to pull that forward a little bit. And maybe I could have even shrunk the wheel down a little bit more, but I'll take the hub, which is going to be the left rear, and pull that forward. And then I can click on, now can I go around the car and see what it looks like? Yeah, I can. This is from the Z view. Zoom that out a little bit, and I'm thinking, those look pretty good. From the X view, the other one, again, that's not bad. Again, I think I was going to manipulate that back wheel, but remember that you're going to be looking at the game from behind the car. So let's take the camera and let's move the camera to behind the car. Oh, okay. Let's. I can zoom out just a little bit, and I can click the camera, and I can manipulate it so that it's rotating. So we'll take the camera and we'll change its view. So it's a 90-degree kind of rotation. Maybe that's a little bit too far. And change its X position on its rotation and X transformation, and lower this down a little bit. It's a little bit too close, and yeah, I don't want to get too close, otherwise you get the big wide angle zoom looking thing. And I'm thinking that's not bad. Let's look at this through the game view. That's not terribly okay. I can also remember that I got that whole game object, and let's see, align view to selected, which would be the camera. There we go. And then I can adjust the camera just a little bit more. All right, and we're pushing the 55-minute mark here. So let's just take, I adjusted the camera, and let's take one quick look at all the hubs. You won't be able to see the front hubs from this back view, but definitely you can choose the rear hubs. I'm going to go to the scene and kind of adjust this. And I'm thinking, okay, that rear hub's kind of sticking out a little bit, so I'm going to pull that in to make sure that that wheel kind of goes in. Actually, let me pull that wheel in a little bit more. Yeah, because that's like sticking out like a, and maybe I don't like that wheel sticking out too much. Okay, sticking out a little bit, and what's that? That's the right rear hub, and that right rear hub is right there in the middle of about where the car is. So let's kind of get this kind of look in the wheel about right there, and this is the left rear hub, and that's pretty good. And sometimes you just gotta play. Sometimes you get the camera set and you're thinking, are the wheels even? And if they're not, then you just adjust them more. And depending on your vehicle, you know, and depends on your camera angle, you might think to yourself, Martin, you did all that work on the front wheels and I can't even see the front wheels. Okay, well, you know what? That happens once in a while. Sometimes you just gotta, you know, say, depends on the vehicle, you might see all the fronts, everything like that. Be careful about running into a wall though, because then you get stuck. Okay, now here's one thing. So you're going to build, for your assignment, you're going to build a project, and it's got to have a wheel, or got to have wheels and a vehicle that is not the stock Unity one. You got to put that together. You have complete control over the environment that you're running into, but occasionally you may need to have what's called a reset button, because you might get stuck or you might get high centered. And I know you might think to yourself, but I'm not going to do anything that could get me high centered. And the answer is, really, you don't know that. Okay, you know, you might just get stuck on something. You might accidentally just, you know, it might not be anything you even think about, but I could get stuck. So how do you do a reset button? And how do you adjust your collider boxes? Well, wait, I didn't say collider boxes before. Yeah, well, I got two things left to do. Collider boxes. Whoa. So I need to go to my scene. I got to make sure that my collider boxes are kind of set. Most important piece, the most important collider box is the one that's like the body. Okay, so I got to cover like pretty much everything that has to do. So if you get high centered, there's a very good chance that your collider boxes are off. So now you got the wheel hubs. Wheel hubs are their own collider boxes, but you never know. Okay, like I've got, let's see, the front right there. The bottom, that's okay, but this front piece, yeah, maybe I just gotta have to adjust it. So set your collider boxes so that they're on your models, or adjust them sizes or anything like that, because that's what collides into your body, especially if you're driving underneath something. You need a reset button. Guess what? That's going to be given to you. Yeah, you don't have to write the code. Why? Because it's actually pretty straightforward. Let me go ahead and save this everything, because it's not a bad idea to save my scene, save the cheerleader, save the world, and I am going to go and import in a new asset, and that is going to be, oh, I got somewhere in my big file, is my Reset Now button. Yeah. Now there's not very much to this. It is pretty much just going to be something that it's a public class called Reset Now, and it's going to need a GUI. All right, and the GUI is going to sit in the upper corner. You can adjust these numbers if you want. It's going to say restart, and then what it's going to do is going to reload the active scene when you press it. So to make it, we're going to go ahead and make it an empty game object. Then all you got to do is on the empty game object, simply drag in the Reset Now button. Boom, that's it. You import it in, you drag it to the game object, and you hit play to make sure it shows up. There it is, the upper left-hand corner. Test it, okay? Crash or do something, or while you're driving, hit the reset button. Boom. Oh, my color's all changed. How come? Because I probably didn't have enough RAM to load the actual gameplay. And one last component is that you didn't see me do a sky. Why didn't you see me do a sky? I didn't do a sky. Okay, so don't forget the sky. Well, wait, how do you do sky? Click on your camera, go to your component, rendering, and skybox. Make sure you add the skybox in there to your camera. And then let's see, I think I actually have a bunch of skyboxes. I had this really cool blue nebula one that I like. So I go to its material and I drag starry blue. Oops, probably have to click back on the camera and drag the starry blue nebula again. There we go, I like it. And I made it a lot better. By the way, if everything is really too bright, but you can adjust your light. All right, go to the light type, change the color, bring it down, even a little bit more. There you go. Ooh, yeah, it's all soft and dark. And that's it. And at this point, I will just say, have fun on your project. I'm going to crash right here. Boom, high center. And I'm stuck. But I got a reset button.